Hello everybody, it's Nick here with Nick Tolman Music, and today we're going to go ahead and continue our beginner guitar lesson series using the Hal Leonard Guitar Method, Book 1. Let's get started. Alright, so today we're going to go ahead and look at page 34 here in the Hal Leonard Guitar Method, Book 1. Before we get started, I will toss out a reminder to head on over and check out my Patreon page if you haven't already. Over there you're going to find a lot of great resources, including a weekly guitar series that is dedicated and specific to you and your questions as a patron. You can ask the questions that you have concerning guitar and music, and I will do my best to answer those for you in a weekly video series. Also, you'll find early access to video lesson content that is found here on YouTube, as well as a lot of other resources and things like that to help you along your journey of learning to play guitar. So definitely head on over there, check it out, and consider becoming a patron today. On page 34, we are going to learn a new chord, which is the E Minor Chord. We're also going to learn two new songs, Hey Ho, Nobody Home, and Shalom Chaverim. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump right in. So starting off, we're going to talk about the E minor chord. Now this chord is actually one of the easiest to play. It's oftentimes one of the first ones that I teach a student just out of the gate, just to be like, hey, let's play a chord. Super easy, E minor. All right. So as you can see here on the diagram, it's going to strum all 6 strings. So you don't have to worry about missing any strings. All 6 strings are going to be strummed. You're going to place your second finger on the note B, which is on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. And then you're going to place your third finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string on the note E. And then you'll strum all 6 strings. Now, it is important to make sure that you use your 2nd and 3rd finger. Sometimes I see people doing like 1st and 2nd finger when they first start out for the E minor chord. It's going to make things easier in the long run if you use your 2nd and 3rd finger, especially when you're talking about moving from that chord to other chords. So just make sure you're using that proper fingering. It should be no problem. It does make a little note about arching your fingers, making sure, just a reminder that you're arching those fingers around, playing up on the tips of your fingers rather than having too flat, because otherwise you might get some dead strings down here that you don't want. Remember, whenever you play a chord, or any note really, you always want to make sure that whatever finger is playing a note, that's the only string, only note that it's touching. If your finger's touching multiple strings, it's going to cause problems. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at exercise 76. This is our classic down, down, up strumming that we've been doing a lot throughout this lesson series and that we officially talked about in our last lesson. So if you missed that one, go check it out. But here we go. So here is 72 on the metronome, exercise 76. Oh, 1, 2, and ready and play. All right, obviously there is nothing to that. There are a couple things that you can keep in mind though, especially where you're doing something so simple. This is a perfect opportunity for you to just really focus on the metronome, locking into that groove and just being right in the pocket with that metronome. All right, so yeah, absolutely spend some time with the metronome and just like hyper focusing on boom, 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 and just like being very metronomic, very clear about where you are as far as being with the metronome. All right, so another thing that you can do with this exercise, which is great, is to practice other chords with it. So I know it just says to do E minor the entire time, but maybe incorporate some other chords that you know. All right, so let's do something like this. We're going to do the first measure, E minor, second measure, C, third measure, G, last measure, D7, and back to E minor. All right, so let's try it. Again, E minor, C, G, D7, or D works really well there too. Okay, so here we go. 72 on the metronome, here's what that sounds like. 1 and 2 and ready and play. And that progression, you can go a lot of different ways. So E minor, C, G, D, ooh, B7. If you want to jump ahead and maybe learn a B7 chord, super good for that last chord there. So E minor, C, G, all right, great little progression. Anyways, the whole concept there is just maybe play around with some of the chords you know and plug them in here and use it as a way to just practice your chords, all right? Okay, so let's go ahead and jump the metronome up to 120 so you can hear exercise 76 at 120 on the metronome. Again, the idea is that you're building that metronome up, 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 click by click until you get to a faster tempo. And this is just an example faster tempo. It can absolutely go faster than this. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and ready and... All right, that's the idea. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to exercise 77, Hey Ho, Nobody Home. Now, this one is going to incorporate notes, chords kind of, just has one chord, and obviously words. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk about all of those as we normally do with our exercises. So starting out, 77, here is the melody. I'm going to play it for you at 72 on the metronome. Oh, 1, 2, ready and play. All right, so this melody, there's just a couple things that I will mention, okay? It's not overly challenging. We are in the key of E minor, which means there's going to be an F sharp in the key signature, which you'll notice. So make sure that all the Fs that you play are F sharp, all right? Now, we start out with E, D, E, 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 B. Now, this is just kind of that classic. I usually try to avoid the one finger jump, right? That's what I call it. When, like, from going from E to B, where I have to use the same finger and just jump quickly to another string. Why do that when you have other fingers that can help make that transition smoother? So, in that second measure, I recommend playing your E where it normally would be with your second finger, and just reaching your third finger around to play that low B. And then your E is still there for you when you go to the third measure. All right, so just keep that in mind. F sharp, F sharp again. Those are just a couple little things for you to focus on with that. Other than that, just standard practice procedures, which is work on it slowly and slowly build that tempo up. Make sure you're focusing in on the areas that are giving you problems. So if you're noticing that you're consistently making a mistake in a particular measure or a particular spot, isolate that spot and just practice it over and over again. Loop it until it gets easier and more comfortable, and then start putting that in context with the rest of the song. Okay, so let's go ahead and hear what that sounds like with the chords. So here are the chords at 72 on the metronome with the melody, Hey Ho, Nobody Home. 1, 2, ready, and play. All right, hopefully I played the correct number of measures of chords, because it's just the same chord for the whole song. But that's the idea. It's super easy. It sounds pretty cool to play the melody along with that just droned E minor chord. So if you have someone to play with, great. If not, this is a great one to just kind of work on your E minor chord. You can play along with the recording that I just gave you as well, so you have an idea of how that's supposed to go. All right, so let's go ahead and bump the metronome up to about 100. It doesn't need to go much faster than this. In fact, 72 actually works for this melody as well. But let's try it at 100 on the metronome. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and... All right, and let's try it with the chords. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, and... All right, so that's the melody and the chords together. Now let's talk about singing this melody. All right, so just like any melody, to me the best place to start is to work with singing the melody along with playing the melody. All right, so the idea here is that you're training your ear to just really know the melody. Now this step can actually be skipped if you're already really familiar with the melody, you've known it for years, you know how to sing it, whatever. This can actually be skipped. But if it's a new melody to you, this is a good place to start. So, doing something like this. Hey ho, nobody home, meat nor drink nor money have I none, yet will I be merry, hey ho. Right? Something like that. So the idea is that you're just playing those notes, you're singing along, getting used to the words, the notes, getting it in your ear. The goal should be that you should be able to play that first note and then sing the melody without playing along. So, Hey ho, nobody home. Meat nor drink nor money have I none. Yet will I be merry. Hey ho, nobody home. Right? And notice there at the end when I stopped, I checked that last note and I was still on pitch. Boom! That means I'm good, right? If for some reason you check that last note and you realize, oh, I'm not singing the right note again, maybe go back to singing it while playing a few more times to get your ear more and more comfortable with that melody. Once you are comfortable with the melody, you're singing it comfortably all by yourself, then it's time to add it to the chords, all right? So here's our first note. Let's go ahead and turn on the metronome to 100, and we're gonna play the chords and sing. First note again. 1, 2, ready, and hey ho, nobody home. Need nor drink nor money have I none. Yet will I be merry. Hey ho, nobody home. Need nor drink nor money have I none. Yet will I be merry. That is Hey Ho Nobody Home, chords and melody together while singing. All right. Lastly, let's look at exercise 78. So we're going to start at 72 on the metronome. I'll play it for you and we will go from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. All right, so just a few things to talk about. This melody is actually very similar to the one we just played, Hey Ho, Nobody Home. They're both in the key of E minor. They're both kind of playing in the same general range and kind of some of the same issues. But the first thing to look at is the very first two notes, right? Again, this is the classic one finger jump. If you just play B second finger, E second finger, you're gonna have a jump. And especially with this melody, this is supposed to be a smooth lyrical melody. You don't want it choppy. You don't want, you want, right? So you have a couple options. And what I did the first time through is I played the E with my second finger, or sorry, I played the B with my second finger. I played the E with my third finger, just like an E minor chord fingering, right? And you can do that, and then when you go for the F sharp, you basically just kind of let off, play the F sharp, and then you're back to regular, just standard first position fingerings. But it might feel a little awkward when you go over that F sharp because it's kind of a jump. Again, you don't have to necessarily reach. You can kind of let off with your other two fingers when you go for the F sharp, and then your hand's kind of back in its normal position. The other option, which I did the second time around, is I actually played the B with my third finger, which I actually kind of like better, I think. It feels a little awkward starting out because it's opposite of how you would normally finger your E minor chord, but you can start there, and that makes that reach to the F sharp feel a little more natural as well. Either option will work for you just fine. So starting in beginning again, you've got that jump, so whichever option you choose, no problem, but avoid the one finger jump. F sharp. Two, three. There's nothing really challenging or out of the norm about that melody, but if any of those spots are giving you trouble, just again, isolate, practice, hone in on that spot until it's feeling more comfortable, and then move on, okay? So in the second line we have 2, 3. Traditionally, what I've seen with students is that the second and third measure of the second line are kind of what give people the most hang up. And mainly because you have some skips, right? So instead of just notes moving easily up and down the fingers, you have some string skips and things like that. So we've got open E. Again, the key is to isolate. If this is giving you problems, just isolate super small chunks, maybe just that measure over and over again. And the idea, I've said this before in the lessons, but the concept is just something important to keep in mind. We don't practice something until we get it right. We practice something until we can't get it wrong. And so the concept being that, like, if you are looping it like that and you're getting it wrong most of the time, like most of the time you're flubbing your fingers or the notes aren't coming out right, that's okay. But if you get it right once, don't be like, all right, I got it, and move on. You want to be able to consistently do it right, okay? And then move on to the next measure, which is actually even a little bit more challenging because you have the F sharp, and then I'm playing that low B with my third finger. Again, isolate it as much as you need to before you move on. And that's the whole melody. All right, let's go ahead and hear what it sounds like with the chords. So here it is at 72. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's go ahead and bump the metronome up and work the rest of this out. So we're taking about 100 on the metronome. This melody does not need to go fast. Actually, 72 might be just fine for you. All right, so we're gonna try it at 100 just for a little bit of variation in the tempos here and go from there. So here is the melody at 100. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. there it is at 70 or at 100. Let's go ahead and try it with the chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And there it is. The process for learning the vocals on this is exactly the same process as we talked about with Hey Ho Nobody Home. Start with singing the melody with playing the melody, then move to singing the melody all by itself, and then lastly add that melody to the chords. Here's what the chords and melody sound like singing. And you'll have to forgive my Hebrew diction is not a strong point of mine, so if I'm pronouncing things incorrectly, I am very sorry. I'm doing my best on that. Here we go. Here's our first note. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Shalom Chaverim, Shalom Chaverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehi Rayo, Lehi Rayo, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Chaverim, Shalom Chaverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehi Rayo, Lehi Rayo, Shalom, Shalom. And that's the basic idea. So, thank you so much for tuning in to today's lesson. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or otherwise, please leave those in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer those. And stay tuned for our next lesson. Thanks.